Thunder Rolling in the Mountains by Scott Odell and Elizabeth Hall. Read to you by Mrs. Shoemaker. Chapter 6. Now we were on the far side of the Snake, and Chief Joseph took command of our people. We climbed out of the dark canyon to an aspen grove, where the herds were allowed to graze, and then we set off toward Lapwai, our new home. We went to the Salmon River and crossed it safely, because we had crossed the mighty Snake already. At Rocky Canyon, we camped beside a pond surrounded by aspen trees. 20 suns had risen and set since we crossed the big river. Lapwai is near, Chief Joseph said. We can reach it with a short march and obey General Howard. But before we go there'll be songs and dances, horse races and games to mark our last days of freedom. Everyone agreed with him, especially the young warriors. The feast days were loud with the hooves of racing horses, and the nights with the thrum of drums and the soft cries of flageolets. On the last day before we left there was a parade of all our clans. The horses wore beaded harnesses and their finest saddles. Colored streamers fluttered from their manes and tails. I did not go to the parade. Bending Willow, my new baby sister, was sick, and I stayed to help Springtime take care of her. I had built a fire to make a kettle of cow's mush. Night shadows lay on the meadow where we were camped when Swan Necklace rode up to the fire. Braids of his long hair hung wildly around his face. He opened his mouth but couldn't speak. "What has happened to make your tongue go to sleep in your mouth?" I asked him. "War!" he stammered. "War!" He wanted a drink of water, and I brought it. "War? What war?" "With the white soldiers. Walla had started a war." "What do you mean? How can one boy start a war?" "Walla was riding fast through the camp, having fun with red moccasin tops," Swan Necklace said. "By accident, his horse stepped on some cow root that belonged to Sour Tongue, who never has a good word for anybody, and the old man shouted at him, 'See what you do, playing like a brave, you ride over a woman's hard-worked food. If you're so brave, why not kill the white man who killed your father? Or are you just happy riding your dead father's horse like a child?'" "Well, the old man speaks the truth," I said. "That's what Walla has done, riding around like a child." "Oh, he rides no more," Swan Necklace said. "Not after the insult. Crazy, he jumped down from his horse, and he was about to kill the old man. Ferocious Bear took his knife away and threw him to the ground." "Listen, you saw all this, or someone told you? They made up a story and told you." "I was there. I saw it. I saw Walla lying on the ground crying, and suddenly he jumped up and rode off and came back with his rifle, and then I heard him scream, 'Watch! You'll see I'm not a child playing warrior. You'll be sorry for your words,' and he fired in the air and then galloped away." "Walla rode off alone?" I said. "Not alone. Red Moccasin Tops and I rode after him. We caught up with him at the shack where Larry Ott lived. The door was locked. We broke it down, but Larry Ott was not inside. And then we went to Richard Devine's place. He's the one who set the wild dogs on any of our people who walk by his house. He once murdered a Nimipu who was crippled and couldn't walk. He will kill no more of us. We surprised him. Never had one of the people entered his house. Walla had shot Devine with his own gun." "You helped him do the killing?" "No, not Devine. I was outside holding the horses. But together we killed another white man who had whipped some of our people with a whip that had an iron tip. And we would have shot the bootlegger Sam Benedict if his bride hadn't begged us to spare him." Swan Necklace was suddenly calm. "I need more bullets," he said. I had a pouchful hidden away under the bed in my father's teepee. "Give me all you have," Swan Necklace said. "There will be much fighting." "Don't do any more shooting until Chief Joseph comes back," I said. "He's gone off to hunt with his brother. He'll be back today." "You don't know when he comes back. Things won't wait. Those who need killing will get on their horses and get out of the country, like the white man Ott who killed Eagle Robe." He drank half of the water I brought him and held out the rest to me. "Drink," he said. "You look pale as a fish belly." I drank the water. Swan Necklace had changed. He was fierce with war. If I'd had a guardian spirit, I'd have thanked it on my knees. "Bullets," said Swan Necklace. Beyond the lake, I caught a glimpse of my father and Alicot in their black eagle blankets, riding slowly toward our camp. Swan Necklace saw them too. "Hurry!" he shouted. "My friends are waiting. They're also out of bullets. We have powder, but we need bullets." My father and Alicot rode at a gallop. They had heard the news of the killing from someone. "Hurry!" Swan Necklace shouted again. I ran fast to the teepee, took the bullets from their hiding place, and hung them on his shoulder. They weighed him down. Chief Joseph and Alicot came out of the trees and up the trail. They galloped to where we stood, and they looked grim. "We have heard that you have killed white men," Alicot said to Swan Necklace. "We did," he answered. "We killed 2. "Killing, I feared," Chief Joseph said, "is what I have fought against since the beginning." "It's war," Alicot said. "A war we cannot win," my father said. He pointed a finger at Swan Necklace. "Remember this, young warrior. None of the soldiers will be scalped. Not one. Remember this yourself, and tell what I say to your friends." Swan Necklace tried not to flinch. He was standing beside the 2 most powerful men in the tribe. His carbine was stuffed under one shoulder, and he looked like a soldier, but I think he wanted to run. Warriors had gathered at the lake and built a fire. 2 Moons rode among them, leading a roan horse that had belonged to one of the white men. He called to his son, and he held a red jacket over his head. Swan Necklace rode to his father's side. He took the jacket and put it on. Then he shook his rifle. A cheer went up. "It is time to fight," said 2 Moons. "We will be children no more. And we will never go to Lapwai," Ferocious Bear said through closed teeth. "Let the soldiers know we will kill them all." Women began to take down the teepees. Our camp was unprotected, and the soldiers would soon be upon us. "No," shouted Chief Joseph. "Let us stay here until the army comes. We will make some kind of peace with them." But no one listened.